I have a ton of filters over the years of doing videography full time, and believe it or not, my favorite filter out of them all is actually a dirty, hazy piece of glass. So let's talk about it. But seriously, why would you want to pay all that money for a nice professional camera like this and then put a dirty, hazy, smudgy piece of glass on it? And the answer to that actually might surprise you. Black Diffusion or Black Mist filters have been a staple in my camera kit for many, many years for a lot of reasons. And I even carry them in different strengths as well. I have a 1/8 strength right here and a 1/4 strength. And as you saw there, you can also stack them up. And I have all different price points of these filters too, from cheap $50 ones like these K&F concept filters, all the way up to Vaxis filters, Tiffen Black Pro Mist, and even $300 Schneider Hollywood Black Magic filters. And we're gonna test all of those out in this video. So I guess the real question is, if cheap options like this K&F concept Black Diffusion filter exists, then does it make sense to spend a fortune on some of these other options? So let's see how they compare. Black Mist filters reduce the contrast of your overall image without reducing the resolution. That goes for regular mist or Black Mist filters. The difference with the Black Mist is that it keeps your shadows dark. It's called Black Mist because your blacks stay black, and the rest of your image is really only affected by the blooming of the highlights. That's probably the biggest thing that you'll notice with the Mist Diffusion, is that hazy looking fog around bright objects or things that are, you know, like a light source in your frame. So they're also known for being great beauty filters as well, because that reduce in the digital sharpness look can reduce blemishes and wrinkles and maybe imperfections or something like that in your talent's face. And actually, let's jump into 5 reasons why you might want to get these and just kind of how they overall work, and then we'll go over some examples while we're doing it. So let's jump into it. During the daytime, it's a subtle look. This is a shot with a neutral density filter. Then I'll add in 1/8 Black Mist. Now swap it out for 1/4 Black Mist. Now let's take a look at them side by side, and you'll see that the resolution is still there. You're still able to read the text, although the details in the painting are slightly softer with the stronger diffusion, and the sunlight is leaking onto the wall with this blooming or foggy, misty effect. The effect is much more noticeable at nighttime, but you have to be careful not to push it too far. Reason number 1, Black Diffusion filters are the key to that hazy cinematic looking fog that I was referring to. It's called blooming of the highlights. You're actually seeing a Black Mist filter right now. So I have an RGB light off to the side here with the green on, and it's just raking directly across the lens, which has 1/8 Black Mist on it. So that's what's creating this misty effect. So whenever I block the light off the lens like this, you see how it goes away. And then whenever it hits the lens again, you get this nice hazy effect. Reason number 2 is halation. That is where the light spreads around an object in the frame. And this is what the light would look like normally, a bright subject in your frame. And you can see how you're able to see inside the reflector there, and you can see the chip and everything. Now, this is what the halation would look like with 1/8 mist. And there you go, and now you have a little bit of a bloom inside here. You see we have this kind of misty glow around this pink light. This is an example of how the Sigma Art 24 to 70 flares normally. So now we'll add the 1/8 Mist Diffusion. The light just spreads just a little bit more. You have more of that misty haze, and it just really exaggerates that flare, and it actually cuts into the outer frame, like the silhouette of the lens is cut into by the light now. And now with a 1/4, you can really see how that edge has the light spread across it and cut into the front of the silhouette of the lens itself, and you just get that nice pink misty haze all around the light like it's actually some kind of fog or mist in the air. The way mist filters work are the larger the fraction, the stronger the strength of the filter. So with 1/8 being the most common and the weakest strength that most people use, it's typically the one that I will keep on a lens for an entire shoot day. And 1/4 being, you know, double the strength of 1/8 is typically about as far as I go. But you can see here in these examples how when you jump into some of the stronger strengths that it does create a nice unique effect. Although if it's something bright that you're trying to film and you need to read it or something like that, then maybe these filters wouldn't work for you. Let's say you're trying to film a neon sign and you need to be able to read those letters, then maybe no filter at all, or 1/8 at most. And then 1/2 is really strong, but I don't even own a 1/2 because you can always stack filters up. Like these K&F Concept Nano K filters come with a 1/8 and a 1/4 strength in the same case. So you're able to stack those up if you want because they have front filter threads. And my first tip is to get the largest diameter filters for your largest diameter lens. Like mine is 82 millimeters, which is typically the largest. And to use these with your smaller lenses, you just get step-up rings like these. And I recommend getting some brass rings. They typically stick less than the aluminum or the metal ones. So I get these ones from Lucid Brass on Amazon. I'll leave links to those below if you want to check these out, but I have a whole set of these. So I'm able to quickly go from a 67 millimeter front thread to a 77 millimeter front thread whenever this whole time this filter is an 82. So you're able to adapt it to anything with a nice little set of step-up rings, which is why I recommend getting a big one. They cost a little bit more, but whenever you're able to use one filter for all your lenses, it just kind of makes sense. Okay, reason number 3 is make sure you get a black mist diffusion and not a regular pure mist diffusion, because the difference is actually in the shadows. So on a black mist diffusion, you still maintain your black and your shadow tones, and on a regular mist filter, you actually reduce contrast in the whole image. So your shadows even get washed out a little bit and it softens the whole image. So that's why I recommend getting the black diffusion. Reason number 4 is super quick because I want to hurry up and get to number 5. It's my favorite one. But number 4 is just a protectant for your lens. Instead of using like a UV filter, why not have something that improves the creative look of your image on your lens as well? And number 5, the biggest one of them all for me, is the beauty aspect of these filters, because whenever I'm going on a shoot, I'll always, you know, go to the camera right when I'm about to shoot a lady or something like that, and I'll be like, okay, time to put the beauty filter on, and I'll drop one of these on there, and they're like, oh, what's that about? And I'm like, oh, you know, it just makes you look a little younger, reduces wrinkles, blemishes, just kind of smooths out the skin a little bit. And they always really appreciate that. So that's another tip, is to, you know, kind of like use this as a device in front of your clients and be like, oh, putting on my beauty filter, this will make you look really good. And they love that. All right, so I'll be the subject of this with my wrinkles and blemishes. So this is what I look like with #NoFilter. Now here we are with the K&F Concept 1/8 Black Mist Diffusion, and you can see how we have some halation, we have some blooming of the highlights, and my skin should be a little bit softer at this point, so let's compare. Now here is a 1/4, and you can just see how everything is just a little bit more intensified as I block the light from the lens. You can just kind of see how it reacts to my fingers there. So this makes a really cool effect when you're filming outside and you happen to catch the sunlight between a couple branches or something like that. So really stylistic effect. And now let's look at all the different strengths together. In this view, you can see how the contrast is greatly reduced, especially with the parts with bright highlights, because those areas are washed out, and it does reduce some of the detail in my skin as well. Although you have to be careful with some of these stronger strengths because you can see how the light is blooming over into my head. Nighttime is my favorite time to use black mist filters. It just creates a nice hazy atmosphere around light sources. But how do these K&F concept filters compare to some of the other brands out there? It might be hard to tell from this scene, but let's take a look at another light source. And if I was to make note of one thing, I would say that the K&F concept aren't quite as strong as some of the other brands like Vaxis. Now let's do a raindrop test because I've been shooting in the rain a lot lately and I don't recommend it, but the K&F concept seems to have really good coatings on the glass. Water droplets seem to bead right up and come off easily, easy to clean. And then the Tiffen Black Pro Mist doesn't have nearly as good of coatings on it as this filter. You see how the water kind of lays flat and it just smears whenever I go to clean this type of glass. For color casting and white balance, they all did pretty good and only required a slight adjustment. The K&F concept leans more towards the warmer tones, the Tiffen leans more towards magenta, and the Vaxis actually adds a little bit of magenta, and the quarter strength adds some warm tones and magenta. Just look at that. Just look at that cinematic glow right there. I just wanted to say cinematic one more time. But anyways, guys, if you're interested in picking anything up in this video, be sure to check out the links below. And I highly recommend looking at some of these budget options as well. I think it kind of proved it today that we don't really have to get the most expensive options just to get a nice, creative, soft, cinematic look for our videos. So, all right, guys, shoot for the stars, and I'll see you in the next one. Cinematic.